It was the kind of night that seemed ordinary at first. The kind of night where everything felt right, even when it was not. My husband, Mark, and I had been together for almost a decade. We had built our lives from the ground up, our home, our family, everything we'd ever dreamed of. On the surface, we were the picture of happiness, and our marriage seemed unbreakable. But there are things in life that hide behind smiles and quiet dinners. Dark things that no one dares speak of. And on one fateful evening, everything I thought I knew would unravel in a way I never could have imagined. It all started with Mark's sudden disappearance. One moment he was there, talking about his day, and the next, he was gone. No warning, no signs, just an empty house and a broken phone. I thought it was an accident at first. Maybe he had gone out to clear his mind. Maybe work had gotten to him. But as the hours turned into days and his absence stretched on, I realized that something was terribly wrong. I called his phone repeatedly. I texted. I emailed. But there was no answer. Panic started to set in. I reached out to his friends, to his colleagues. They all said they hadn't heard from him. The police were contacted, but they were slow to respond, telling me it was too soon to worry about a missing person. But deep down, I knew. I felt it in my bones. Something had happened to him, and it was only a matter of time before I found out the truth. During that time, I couldn't stop thinking about the strange occurrences in our lives. The times when he seemed distant, the moments when he'd leave the house for hours without explanation. Was there something more to his disappearance than I knew? And as the days wore on, it wasn't just Mark who seemed to disappear. It was our family, our lives. Everything felt like it was slipping through my fingers. I couldn't wait any longer. I needed answers. I turned to his mother, Rachel, who had always been a mystery to me. She was kind, but there was always a hidden sadness behind her eyes, a shadow that loomed over our conversations. She never spoke about the past, especially not about Mark's childhood, which I found odd. I had always assumed there was nothing to hide. But now, with Mark gone, I needed to know everything. When I confronted Rachel, she looked at me with a mix of fear and guilt. "You're asking the wrong questions," she said, her voice trembling. "Some things are better left buried." "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I need to know where my husband is. Why is he gone? What aren't you telling me?" Her hands trembled as she clutched her coffee mug, her eyes darting nervously round the room. "It's not just him, you know," she whispered. "It's the family. The things that happened in the past, they're still affecting us. Mark's disappearance is only the beginning. Tell me the truth, Rachel. What happened to him? What did you do?" I demanded, my voice rising with desperation. And with that, she dropped the bombshell. "It's because of what happened to his father," she said, almost too quietly to hear. "The curse, it's been haunting this family for generations, and now it's come back from Mark." I stood frozen in shock, my mind racing to make sense of what she was saying. A curse? What did that even mean? Was she losing her mind? Or was there more to this story than I could comprehend? Rachel's eyes filled with tears as she continued, "You don't understand. Mark's father was a man who made dangerous deals. He thought he could escape the consequences, but he didn't. And now, Mark is paying the price." The words hung in the air like an invisible weight, and I could feel the room closing in on me. What was she talking about? What did she mean by dangerous deals? And how did it relate to Mark's disappearance? I had to know more, but Rachel wasn't ready to tell me everything just yet. "I'll explain everything," she promised. "But you have to understand, it's not just Mark who is in danger. It's you too. The curse, it's been passed down." I couldn't shake the feeling that Rachel was hiding something. The way she spoke about the curse, the way her voice trembled when she mentioned Mark's father and the dangerous deals, It made my stomach churn. I had to know more, and I had to know fast. Mark had been gone for too long, and the uncertainty was eating me alive. The next morning, I went back to Rachel's house. I couldn't wait for her to come round. I had to hear the rest of the story, the part that she had left out. When I walked in, she was sitting at the kitchen table, her hands clasped tightly together, as if bracing herself for what she was about to say. "Rachel, please," I urged. "You have to tell me everything. Mark is missing. I need to know what's going on. I need to understand what this curse is and how it's tied to him." Her eyes flickered with a mixture of fear and sorrow. She hesitated before speaking again. "It all started with your father-in-law," she said softly. "He was a man who got involved with people he shouldn't have. People who were dangerous, and not just in a criminal sense. They were involved in something darker, something supernatural." I felt a chill run down my spine. Supernatural. This was starting to sound more like a nightmare than reality. But I couldn't back away now. I needed to hear her out. "Your father-in-law made a deal," Rachel continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "A deal with people who promised him power and wealth in exchange for something precious, his soul. He thought he could escape the consequences. But it's never that simple. That kind of deal always comes with a price. And Mark was the one who ended up paying it." I stared at her, disbelief mixing with growing dread. "What do you mean? Mark ended up paying the price? What did his father do?" Rachel took a shaky breath. "He had no idea the kind of power he was dealing with. These people, these dark forces, they don't just make deals, they bind you to them. And when you try to break free, they come after you. They come after your family." Mark's father thought he could escape, but the curse never left. I tried to process what she was saying. A curse, a supernatural deal. It felt like something out of a horror movie. And yet, the way Rachel spoke, the fear in her eyes, told me this wasn't just a story. It was real. My husband was caught up in something so much darker than I had ever imagined. Mark's father made a promise, and Mark inherited it, Rachel said, her voice trembling. "That promise was passed down, and when Mark met you, when he married you, he unknowingly tied you to the curse too. You were part of it from the moment you became his wife." The room seemed to spin round me as the reality of her words sank in. The life I had built with Mark, the family we had, everything felt like it was built on quicksand. What had I gotten myself into? How had I become a part of this dark legacy? "But what does this have to do with Mark disappearing?" I asked, my voice cracking. "How does this curse connect to him vanishing?" Rachel sighed, looking out the window, as if searching for the right words. "The curse doesn't just destroy your life. It isolates you, tortures you. It takes everything from you, your family, your peace of mind. And when it's time, when it's ready to collect, it doesn't give you a choice." Mark wasn't ready to face the past. He thought he could run from it. But the curse always catches up. I felt a cold sweat on my brow as her words hit me. "So, you're saying this is why Mark left. This is why he disappeared." Rachel nodded, her face pale. "Yes, the curse is more than just a punishment. It's a chain. Mark's father made a deal with the devil, literally. And now Mark is paying the price. It's not over, not by a long shot." I felt numb. How could I process this? I thought I was strong enough to face anything. But this was beyond my understanding. The man I had married, the man I loved, was wrapped in something so dark that it had destroyed him. And now, it was reaching me too. Rachel stood up and walked to the window, gazing out with a faraway look in her eyes. "I don't know how to fix it," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't know how to undo what's been done. I thought Mark was different. I thought he could escape it. But it's never that simple. The room felt colder as the weight of her words sank in. What was I supposed to do now? How could I help my husband if he was caught in something so powerful, so evil? And then I realized something. I wasn't alone in this. This curse had taken my husband away, but it didn't have to take everything from me. I couldn't just sit here and wait for the darkness to swallow us whole. I had to do something. I had to find a way to break free from this nightmare. For me, for my children, for Mark, I had to fight. I couldn't wait any longer. Sitting in that cold, silent room, listening to Rachel's words, was no longer an option. My mind was racing with one question. What do I do now? I had always considered myself a fighter, someone who could handle the worst that life threw my way. But this was a nightmare beyond anything I had ever imagined. My husband, the love of my life, was gone, not because of something as simple as a fight or an affair, but because of something much darker, much deeper than anything I could comprehend. The curse had its claws in him, in our family, and now it had reached me. But I wasn't going to sit back and let it destroy us. I had to find a way to stop this, no matter what it took. I looked at Rachel, her face pale and stricken with guilt, and I realized something. We couldn't just wait for this curse to run its course. We had to confront it, break it, whatever it took. There was no other option. Rachel, I said, my voice steady despite the fear creeping up my spine. I'm not going to let this take my family. I won't let it take my children. Rachel's eyes flickered with something between hope and despair. I don't know if we can fight it, she whispered. The curse is old, and it's powerful. It's been in our family for generations. How do we even begin to fight something like that? I don't care how old it is, I replied. I'm going to fight. We'll find a way. If Mark can't come back, if he's gone for good, I won't let his sacrifice be in vain. I'll do whatever it takes. Rachel nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. You're brave. I don't know how you can do this, but if you're willing to fight, then I'll help you. We can't just let the darkness win. We both knew that the odds were against us. We didn't know how to fight something like a curse. It wasn't like anything we had ever dealt with before. But one thing was clear. We weren't going to sit idly by while our lives crumbled apart. The first step, according to the family journal Rachel had shown me, was to confront the place where it all started, the house where Mark had grown up, where his father had made the deal that had cursed their family. The house itself was ancient, dark, and filled with memories of a past that neither of us could escape. It was the place where the curse had been sealed, and it was the place where we would begin to unravel its grip on our family. I didn't know what to expect when we arrived at the house. It was a crumbling estate, surrounded by overgrown trees and a long, winding driveway that seemed to lead into a darkness that never seemed to end. The air felt heavy, as though the house itself was waiting for us, ready to reveal its secrets. As we walked through the front door, I felt a chill run down my spine. The house was silent to silent. I could hear my heart beat in my ears as we moved deeper into the house, following the ancient creaking floors. Every corner seemed to hold a secret. Every shadow seemed to whisper something. And then we found it, the room where it had all happened. The room where Mark's father had made the deal. The room where the curse had been sealed. It was here that the journal revealed the final piece of the puzzle. The deal his father had made had been with a dark force, a supernatural entity that had promised wealth and power in exchange for the souls of the family. The curse wasn't just a random tragedy. It was a binding pact, one that had been passed down from generation to generation. I turned to Rachel, my mind racing. We have to end this. We have to break the deal. Rachel hesitated. But how? The deal is unbreakable unless someone sacrifices themselves. A chill ran through me. Sacrifice, I repeated. my voice barely a whisper. "What do you mean?" Rachel's face was drawn, her eyes filled with regret. "The only way to break the curse is for someone to give up something of immense value. A life, a soul, something irreplaceable. Without that, the curse will never end." I felt my blood run cold. Was she suggesting that I had to sacrifice something, or someone, to save my family? To break the curse that had haunted us for so long? "I'll do it," I said, my voice firm. "I'll make the sacrifice. I'll do whatever it takes to save my family. I won't let Mark's death be in vain." Rachel's face paled, and she shook her head. "You don't understand. It's not that simple. The cost is more than just a life. It's a choice between saving your family and losing everything. You may not be able to come back from it." But I had already made up my mind. I couldn't let the curse continue. Not when my children were involved. Not when Mark's life had been taken. I couldn't allow this darkness to claim another generation of my family. The air in the room grew heavier as I stepped forward, preparing myself to face whatever came next. I had no idea what would happen, what the cost of breaking the curse would be. But I was ready. For my family, for my future, I had to take that step. The room was thick with tension, and I felt the weight of the decision pressing down on me like 1,000 pounds. Every step I took toward the center of the room seemed heavier than the last. The shadows in the corners of the room seemed to stretch toward me, like the walls themselves were closing in, waiting for me to make my choice. I had never felt more terrified in my life, yet there was a strange calmness in me now. I had made up my mind. No matter what the consequences were, I had to break the curse. The darkness that had haunted my family for so long couldn't continue. Mark's disappearance, the suffering my children would inevitably face, and the lies we had all lived under. It was time to end it all. Rachel stood behind me, her face pale as she watched me prepare to face whatever was about to come. I could see the fear in her eyes, but she didn't stop me. She knew this was the only way to end the curse that had haunted her family for generations. I turned back to her, my voice steady, though my heart was racing. "You said the price is more than just a life. What does that mean, Rachel? What am I about to sacrifice?" Rachel looked down, her hands trembling as she spoke. "The sacrifice isn't just about your life. It's about your soul. It's about losing everything that you've ever known, everything you've ever loved. You'll never be the same again. And there's no going back." Her words hit me like a tidal wave, and I could feel my breath catch in my throat. The cost was higher than I had imagined, but it didn't matter. There was no turning back now. If it meant saving my family, if it meant saving my children, I would do it. "I'm ready," I said, my voice firm, though I could feel a coldness creeping into my chest. "I'll do whatever it takes." Rachel nodded slowly, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and respect. "I can't stop you, but you need to understand. Once the ritual is completed, everything will change. You won't be the same. This curse has been passed down through generations, and breaking it will come with consequences." I took a deep breath, stepping forward into the center of the room. The air felt thick, almost as though the walls themselves were alive, watching me. There was a faint, almost imperceptible hum in the air, like a vibration from some unseen force that had been awakened by my decision. The room felt colder, darker, as if the curse itself was reaching out to me. I closed my eyes and tried to steady my breathing. My children, my family, they were all that mattered now. I couldn't allow them to suffer because of something I had no control over. This was my moment. This was my choice. "I'm ready," I repeated, more to myself than anyone else. Rachel stepped forward, her face a mixture of fear and sorrow. "There's one last thing you need to know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Once the curse is broken, it doesn't just vanish. It leaves a mark. You'll feel it for the rest of your life, and it will never truly go away. I nodded, steeling myself. I had already decided. The consequences were irrelevant now. I had to protect my family. Rachel took a step back, her expression darkening. Then let's begin. I felt a wave of cold wash over me as the air around us seemed to shift. The shadows in the room grew darker, more oppressive. I could feel the presence of something ancient and powerful closing in on us. The ritual was about to begin. I closed my eyes, focusing on the task at hand. I recited the words from the journal, the incantation that was said to break the curse. The words felt heavy on my tongue, as if the very air around me was resisting them. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. As the last word left my lips, the room seemed to explode with energy. The air around me crackled with power, and for a moment, I thought I was going to be consumed by it. But then, just as suddenly as it had started, the room fell silent. The oppressive weight in the air lifted, and I felt a strange emptiness take its place. I opened my eyes slowly, taking in the stillness round me. The shadows had receded, and the room was no longer as dark as it had been. But something inside me had changed. I could feel it. The sacrifice had been made. The curse was broken, but at what cost? I turned to Rachel, who was standing a few steps behind me, her face pale and filled with sorrow. "It's over," I whispered, though I wasn't sure who I was speaking to. "It's finally over." She nodded slowly, her eyes filled with tears. "Yes," she said softly, "but the price had been paid." I knew she was right. The curse was broken, but I could feel the weight of the sacrifice, the price that had been paid to free my family. I had given up something, maybe a part of myself, maybe my soul. I didn't know yet, but I knew that the darkness had lifted, and my children would be safe. As I turned to leave the room, I felt a sense of finality wash over me. The past had been left behind, and the future was uncertain. But one thing was clear. I had made my choice, and it was the only choice I could live with.